Hello and welcome to the Allplane Podcast, here with those that are redefining the future of commercial aviation. As usual, before I introduce today's guest, let me remind you that you can find all the previous episodes of this podcast, as well as many other aviation stories, on the Allplane website. That's Allplane.tv, Allplane.tv. In the fourth and last episode of the Software and Airline Cycle, produced in collaboration with SITA for aircraft, I wanted to do a sort of recap of the different tools that we have been talking about here in previous episodes to better understand how these performance-enhancing technologies work together in the context of a modern airline operation. To do so, we are joined today here on the podcast by Kemal Ahmed, who leads the Digital Day of Operations suite of applications at SITA for aircraft. From this vantage point, Kemal can offer a holistic view of the role of software in the everyday work of aviation professionals, pilots, ground personnel, and others, as well as some details and examples about the savings, both in terms of dollars and carbon emissions, that having the right software systems can bring about. A famous Silicon Valley entrepreneur and investor, Mike Andreessen, once said that software is eating the world, and aviation is, of course, no exception. To see what this means for the world of aviation and also get some practical examples, let's welcome Kemal to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, Mikhail. Yes, I'm very good, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to speaking to you today.
Likewise. You're joining us from London, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. A small village just outside London, close to Heathrow Airport.
Very convenient.
So good for getting to that. Yeah, very convenient.
Yeah, I'm amazed how you guys at SITA for aircraft, you have such a decentralized team. I've been talking with people that are based in all different locations across Europe.
Yeah, I think it's something which has emerged sort of fairly organically with the placement of where some of the product development has been and where some of the major SITA for aircraft offices has been, and especially over the last year or so, because everyone's become so good at working together remotely.
Indeed,
it's something that just works really well now.
Indeed. I think we're all getting used to it. Some of us we're already kind of used to remote work before the pandemic, but that's become definitely much more widespread. You are the head of applications portfolio at SITA for aircraft. I'm going to ask you to explain us a little bit what this means, because SITA for aircraft, you are structured in different products and solutions. So from your title, I assume you are sort of kind of managing all of them. So I guess you can give us a good idea of all the different technologies you guys have.
Yeah, of course. So that's correct. So, SITA for aircraft, we're split into obviously several different departments, and the portfolio of products which I manage is what we call our Digital Day of Operations applications. So the software or software as a service solutions which we have for managing flight operations, managing the day of flight operations. So whether that's dispatching, flight tracking, EFB applications, cabin crew applications, for example. So anything which is like a software product like that, which is used to manage the operations of a flight or manage collaboration, that falls sort of under my remit, and that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today, and hopefully we can go into that in a little bit more detail. So that's what I do, and it really involves the development of those products. So figuring out where the industry's going, what our customers want, and creating features to support that and help them.
Yeah, actually, there is a topic that really find really interesting, and I hope the audience does as well. And that's sustainability, aviation sustainability. That's really, it's been a big focus for us here in the podcast. And basically, there's an area of sustainability that I think it's sometimes underreported. I mean, obviously, all the new propulsion technologies, new types of fuel, new types of engines and aircraft, they get all the attention, but there is also so much that can be done as well through the optimization of the current processes and operations. And that's a topic I would like to discuss with you, because I guess from your position, you have a very good vantage point of what's possible with today's technology, software, and different applications that help airlines be more efficient.
Yeah, I mean it's such a big topic at the moment, obviously, and I think it will be for for many years. You look at what the reports that airlines are putting out at the moment, and not just airlines, like most companies, their sustainability reports are reaching up to 2050, and this topic is clearly going to run. But I mean, you're totally correct. Like hybrid engines, like sustainable aviation fuel, those sort of things are great, and they may be a solution to the problem at some point. But there's a real demand from airlines, from airports, from whoever it may be to have something now like that can really have an impact. Mm-hmm. And you look at like the, especially say, I mean, let's think of something like, which maybe isn't so common. Like obviously everyone knows that the burning fuel at takeoff is extremely bad in terms of CO2 emissions. But let's look at like the airport itself and the processes around managing like aircraft. There's so much efficiency that could be found there, and the carbon footprint around airports and those processes is also large, and it's something that needs to be tackled. And I think what airlines are looking for is a way to measure that, like how do you measure what you're doing in terms of sustainability, but also to find these sustainable, whether it's efficiencies or changes in what they're doing that increase their sustainability and their footprint on the world.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, because I guess you have a good panoramic view of all the different processes involved in an airline operation. What are the parts of the, let's say, of the whole flight operation that are more taxing on the environment? Because as you mentioned, it's not just the flight, but also lots of emissions, for example, happen on the ground, getting rid of extra weight, for example, through paperless operations, which is a kind of a subtle, there are lots of different subtle ways that are not too visible that can help to reduce this carbon footprint. So what would you say are the most taxing on the environment, and which are the areas that can be tackled with existing technology, like the one you guys do, the ones you guys develop at SITA?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I said, like everyone knows that like the burning of jet fuel is always going to be the thing which is most taxing on the environment, and I mean that's clear. I think that's fully understood within the industry, and for that point, the takeoff part of the operations is always going to produce the most CO2 and have the biggest impacts. But it's not just that. I mean, they say that aviation contributes 2% of the CO2 emissions, but I mean, in reality, this number is not really that accurate. There's a huge amount of industry and like infrastructure that revolves around aviation, which all has an impact on the environment. Like maintenance, for example, if you can avoid maintenance or unnecessary maintenance, the maintenance of parts for an aircraft, the delivery of those parts, all of that has a huge impact on the environment. It's not just CO2 emissions; it's everything that comes around that infrastructure. And these are things where slight changes or use of different products or like I said, like weather avoidance. If you can avoid bad weather and therefore avoid some maintenance, unnecessary maintenance, the impact is not going to be small. It's going to be incremental, but this is going to have an impact on the environment. And I think that's a really key thing. And maintenance is one because it's an easy one to understand. But it's not just there. It's, let's say, if you're able to improve the communication, say, between the aircraft and like the ramp manager or the person that's managing the fuel for that aircraft, you're able to improve that communication or say improve the data flow so that there's a real-time understanding of what the fuel levels are, what the required fuel is for the next leg. You can really improve the accuracy of fueling decisions and the fuel ordering to make sure that you're not dumping as much fuel maybe, or your aircraft isn't as heavy, you have a more optimal amount of fuel. Just because of you can communicate better with the person on the ground. There's no miscommunication. Like a simple thing like miscommunication can really add weight to an aircraft or make you have to dump fuel before arriving. And that type of stuff has a big impact. If you build things and if an airline works with sustainability in mind in all parts of the process, those small incremental things they'll really make a big difference.
Yeah, actually, I spoke with one of your colleagues recently about, for example, the bad weather avoidance. When you were saying of maintenance, I assume you're referring, for example, to cases where extra maintenance is avoided. Basically, you are avoiding the causes that create this need for a maintenance. Like, for example, I was surprised to learn that if an airplane flies through very heavy turbulence, it might require some extra maintenance because of the sort of tensions it's gone through when flying through the turbulence. I assume that's the sort of thing you had in mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's one example. Yeah, if an aircraft flies through some strong turbulence, they'll same if they have to do a go around because of poor visibility. If that poor visibility isn't something that's known straight away, then extra maintenance is required in that event.
What about communication? What would be the sort of situation? For example, you mentioned that poor communication between the different parties involved in managing a flight can result in a higher, let's say, environmental cost or higher fuel expense for that flight. What would be that case, for example?
Yeah, and I mean that's an interesting one as well. Like, there's two types of communication to think about. There's communication which is actually like physical or verbal or text communication, and making sure you're able to contact someone with the right information at the right time. And there's the other sort of communication which is which is more like the flow of information. So people that need to see like real time information, say about the aircraft, are able to see that and therefore are able to take action on things efficiently. And I think we spoke about like the airport environment there's a large carbon footprint there. But if you're able to really streamline the communication, like say around the turnaround of an aircraft. Turnaround is so tight. The timings on it are really, really tight. The knock-on effect of a delayed turnaround can have a huge sort of future impact for the airline, whether it's delays to future flights, issues with passengers, but also things like idle, like use of like an APU unit, for example. If your turnaround is extended because you haven't been able to manage it properly, the APU, the power unit, will be on for a longer period of time, and that has an impact on the environment, and that's a measurable impact, something which can be established.
I just need to make a parenthesis here for people that might not be familiar. The APU is the auxiliary power unit, so that's basically when you are supplying power to the aircraft when it's on the ground.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah,
a sort of generator, to put it in plain words. I don't know if that's technically the right description, but yeah, it's sort of a piece of equipment that can supply electricity power to the aircraft when it's on the ground.
Yeah. And they'll use it in the turnaround, say, like, even if it's just to power like vacuum cleaners to clean the aircraft. If your turnaround is extended and that's on longer, there's an impact on the environment if your auxiliary power unit is, say, on for too long a period of time. And by improving the communication and bringing everyone into one place to be able to communicate around the turnaround, allowing everyone to see, okay, the aircraft has landed now, okay, it's going to be on its gate at this time, okay, we need to be there at this time then to do what we need to do. By giving that to everyone involved, it can really drive efficiencies in that area, and you don't have to have your catering truck like idling, waiting around, powered up with nothing to do. You can use it more efficiently. People are able to manage their processes more efficiently, and this has a big impact on the carbon footprint on the ground, which is a key thing. And I think we mentioned before communication as well, like in terms of like fuel like is one of the main issues in terms of sustainability. If you're able to communicate more accurately your fuel requirements, and let's look at the last 2 years with the pandemic. Say, like, people haven't been allowed to go into the cockpit. So where previously a pilot may actually just chat to the person who's going to be fueling the aircraft and say, we need this much, hand them a bit of signed paper saying this is the fuel we need. Now they're not, like, the person's not able to go into that cockpit. They have to have a way to communicate, and if that isn't there, then it's very easy to have that miscommunication. So by improving the way that people can collaborate between the aircraft and the ground in a way that's available to lots and lots of people, can make sure that the accurate information is passed, and therefore the fuel load is as accurate as it can be, and therefore you gain all the efficiencies there from having the correct amount of fuel in terms of weight on the aircraft, fuel dumping, all of those things. So communications are a key thing here, and being able to do that can really have a strong impact on the environment.
I got the impression that we are talking about many different steps with different players involved. So it's a bit like a puzzle needs to be put all together. I'm just wondering, is there a way to put all these operations in a single workflow? I don't know if that's how it works. I mean, I'm a bit ignorant about how the actual operations of the, let's say, like the practical steps involved? I guess this might be what you guys are doing with your products, but is there a way to structure this in a single workflow? And then another question is, this obviously has some implications, not just for the environment, which obviously would be a goal in itself, but also has some economic and financial implications for the airline. And why are there still so many inefficiencies in a sector that it operates at the very thin margins, very technified sector, but still seems there's lots of scope there to make it more efficient. So why it hasn't happened yet? I mean, is this a technical difficulty of integrating all these different operations, making them more efficient? Is it technical reasons? Is it regulatory reasons? Is it because of the legacy ways in which airlines organize their workflows? What could be the reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few, to be honest. It's, operations surrounding the aircraft and the management of operations surrounding the aircraft and the management of aircraft and all the processes surrounding that, they've grown significantly over time.
So Kemal, from what you tell me, the operations of airlines are made of a very large number of, let's say, of small steps. I'm just wondering, like in an industry that operates at such razor thin margins, and we're always constantly trying to squeeze more efficiency gains, why are there still so many issues with this? I mean, with all so many inefficiencies, I'm just wondering whether there's a way to integrate all these different steps into a single workflow that allows the airline to have a better view of where the potential efficiencies are. I don't know if that's something you guys at SITA have been working on, or whether there are technical or regulatory issues that prevent this more holistic approach, let's say.
Yes, so I mean, it's a great question, and as you said, it's very confusing to understand maybe sometimes why airlines haven't looked at this or been able to solve this problem before. But in reality, it stems from how complex the operations are, but also how many people are involved. As you may be aware, most airlines do not manage all of their processes, and they contract a lot of stuff out. So whether it's the management of baggage, the catering, fueling, de-icing, whatever that is normally not managed or run by someone who works directly for the airline. Is normally a contracted company. And by having so many contracted companies, but also so many outstations, a lot of this stuff doesn't just happen at the main hub for the airport, but these things happen in places which are far, far away and may not have the best communication. So it's very difficult to gain efficiencies and to get an oversight of what's happening. You may have whilst you can track your aircraft, to understand what exactly is going on with a catering truck at one of your outstations a long way where you're only working with contractors can be very difficult, because they have their own agendas and needs to fulfill. So it can become a very difficult process. And what we're trying to do actually is, as you said, with technology, and something that's really come up actually over the past few years is to build a system where people are able to communicate not just internally, but externally as well with different companies that they're working with, and be able to share that information in one way. And we're building products at the moment at SITA, and we have products available where airlines are able to get an oversight of the real-time status of the aircraft, what process it is undergoing, who's doing that, and also communicate directly with them, whether it be on their cell phone, whether it be on an iPad, whether it be on a laptop, and use some of the tools which we're building or have built to communicate centrally, even with people who are a long way away and don't work directly for the airline. And these are some of the things that could really drive that efficiency. And so I'll give you an example. Let's look at something like the crew and the diversion. So say an aircraft has to divert to a different airport for whatever reason, like passengers ill or there's a maintenance issue in it. And this is obviously now a really big issue for the airline, and there's a lot of things they need to manage, and a lot of people need to be involved in that. And at the moment, all of the people that are involved in that really don't have a way to work together. And what we're trying to do is bring them a way to work together with some of our solutions. And say, for example, the person who's in charge of the cabin crew decide at that point that, okay, this aircraft's diverting, we need to send another cabin crew an emergency crew to take over and manage that return flight, or the aircraft getting back into position with the passengers on it. That's all well and good, and they've done their job. But if the case was actually that the current cabin crew that were on that flight hadn't gone over the allocated hours that they were allowed to work and could have returned that flight back to its final destination, that airline would not have had to send an emergency crew, and therefore they wouldn't have had to position a lot of people in one place. They would have saved costs, but there's an environmental impact there. You're moving people from one place to another and having to put people up in, say, a hotel, and then also reposition those people. So you're moving people around. There's an environmental impact on that, and by having an oversight into the real-time information that's available, that decision could have been totally different and had an impact on the environment and an impact on the cost for the airline. So that's what we're trying to do with technology here, and a new collaboration technology that we're building is really trying to make sure that everyone who's working, not just the airline, but everyone who's working on that flight and anything surrounding it, is able to have that view and collaborate so that they can make these correct decisions, which can save the airline in the end a large amount of money. And it may be money which they wouldn't have known, or sustainability savings that they wouldn't have known could have occurred without having this ability.
Yeah, actually, I would like to go in detail about all the different examples of these solutions that might help optimize some of these steps. Can you tell us a bit more about all the different solutions you are developing at SITA for aircraft? Because you've got a whole portfolio of different solutions targeting a specific segment, a specific activity, a specific stage of the flight, of the flight in a broad sense, so including the times when the aircraft is on the ground, some operations that the crew has to perform when they are on board. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, we'll look at it obviously in terms of sustainability, but let's start with let's start on the aircraft today. So obviously, like EFB, electronic flight bags, something that have been around for a while. And I think as we mentioned earlier, there's weight saving on the aircraft is a massive deal, and it really can have a strong implication on the amount of fuel that is used. So we have a few solutions like our electronic flight folder solution and EWAS Pilot, which is our weather application, and these are fully electronic tablet-based electronic flight bag applications. And this is something that's obviously been talked before, but I think is always something worth thinking about, that this EFB technology can save a huge amount of weight on the aircraft, like in terms of the removing of paperwork, removing all that flight briefing information. For a long-haul flight where you may have several different crew who are working at different times, for say an ultra long-haul flight, you can be saving like 100 kilograms in weight per flight, and for a large airline, this adds up significantly, and this can lead to a significant change. But it's not just that. It's so I mean that's something like straight away that you see just from using a tablet, whether it's an iPad or Microsoft tablet or Windows tablet, Android, wherever it may be. Just by using that, you can see, and immediately there's that gain there. The software itself, the technology, like we've talked about avoiding bad weather, and how like you could have a avoidable maintenance from going through turbulence, but there's so much more that comes from that. So imagine if you need to perform some maintenance, say you've been, and these are real life examples, say you've been impacted through some ice crystals and you have some engine damage. It's not just the fact that you have to have this maintenance, which has a huge environmental impact itself in terms of the manufacturing of new parts, the time that the aircraft's on the ground in terms of cost, but also you have like you may have, like, this is a 777 or a A380 or a large aircraft like that. You may have 300 to 400 passengers who need to be moved into different positions, and that movement is automatically adding like a huge amount of carbon footprint onto those journeys, and it's really the consumers are the people that are driving this need for sustainability. People are now thinking more about whether they're sending a package or whether they're flying themselves. Like, understanding their carbon footprint is something that's key, and that's why avoiding this bad weather and maintenance can have a major impact on that sustainability. But being able to have confidence as well, like in the weather that you're seeing, can really help the pilot make their decisions on the fuel that they need for for the journey. If they have confidence in the weather and they have confidence in the weather data that they're seeing for their flight, which is what we're providing with the EWAS pilot application, they're able to have more confidence in making the correct fuel decision for the route that they have to take to avoid any bad weather or to fly at the correct height. Yeah. So I mean that's just an example.
Yeah, I just wanted to refer here to an episode with the product manager for EWAS Pilot. He presented all the different options. It was quite interesting to find out about all the weather aspect of the flight, which is something that passengers are normally not that aware unless they go through a very serious turbulence. All the technology that goes into making sure that the plane goes or avoids the worst weather conditions. That's definitely what was very was an eye opener. So that was EWAS Pilot. You have other products as well, OptiClimb and OptiCruise, right? Which is more about optimizing the itinerary.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one really is about the fuel saving and the reduction in the CO2 emissions that can be brought to an airline. And I mean, I have some examples in terms of like the figures, and they're quite impressive. Like if you look at say a short haul, a narrow body, a 737 and A320, something like that, using OptiClimb and the technology there to create an optimized climb gradient, and to using the data from both the weather and the data from the historical data from the aircraft, you can save about 82 kilograms of fuel per climb. And for the yearly reduction in CO2 for a 737, for example, could be over 200 tons of CO2 emissions saved and or reduced, and over 70 tons of fuel saved in a year. If you look at like a sort of a normal short haul operator, average short haul operator that's flying a 737, and obviously if you then look at a long range, a wide body like a 777, something like that, the numbers are dramatically higher. You could be seeing over 200 kilograms of fuel saved for each climb if using on average for each climb if using OptiClimb, and the fuel savings per tail for a year can be over 100 tons, and it's a really big impact. And it's using data that's already there. Like it's using weather data that's available. It's using the airline data. So this information is available. Then airlines have it, and it's just utilizing it in the correct way and analyzing it in the correct way, and then also providing that information to the pilot at the right time. And that's what's really key here, is that the pilot needs to have, so this information, say the optimized climb information, or like the optimized routing information that we can provide through these services, we will input those, and they'll be shown directly on the EFB applications, which I was talking about before. And what that does, that provides the pilot the confidence to take that decision and to ask for this routing and to do this different climb that they're seeing. And this gives them the confidence to do that, and therefore more than likely have more utilization because they're seeing that information in the right place, and that has a direct impact on environmental footprint for that airline. And it's as I saw with those figures, there can be really significant savings for the airline and reduction in CO2.
I'm just browsing your website now. I can see you have up to 9 different solutions under what you call digital day operations, which is just one part of the SITA suite of products. What about the other ones? I mean, you have EWAS Pilot and EWAS Dispatch, which are mainly about the weather. Then you have OptiClimb, which is the one we're mentioning now. Then you have others like Mission Control and Flight Folder. Flight Folder, I think it's about the paperless cockpit. So it's getting everything on tablets rather than on a big, thick pack of paper, saving weight. And then you have also data solutions, aircraft data hub.
Yeah, so I mean, this is really about as and very similar to the OptiClimb and the OptiFlight. Well, this is really about enabling the airline to use their data that they already have, and that they may provide to us anyway by using things like Mission Control and OptiFlight to use this data in a way that they can do things like improve like predictive maintenance. So understand when they'll need to perform maintenance, and that will and the impact that you can have there is by being able to enable like strong predictive maintenance and predicting the maintenance requirements for the aircraft, they can avoid failure. And failure is what has the impact, has the impact on the customer, it has the environmental impact. By being able to manage that in that way and use their data to understand when maintenance will be required, they can avoid those sort of failures. But they also, things like tire degradation, they can understand when the efficiencies will go on the tires on the aircraft, or when they're likely to fail as well, and stop that from happening. And these are really key things which have an impact, like efficiencies of those tires has an impact on the efficiencies of the aircraft, the reduced chance of failure again. And all of these things have that, as like I said, it avoids that unnecessary maintenance by being able to predict it well using the data that they had. And this is key. And I think the interesting thing here is that this is data that they're using already, say for mission control and flight. For mission control, which is the communication thing, which we've been talking about already in terms of bringing teams together to communicate. That system is integrated with lots of different systems that the airline has, so that the data which they hold can be used and shared with the people that need to use it. And some of these other data options that we have is basically just enabling the airline to use that data for other things, as I said, like predictive maintenance, tire degradation, to really improve how they run and really improve their operations, and for the airline saving vast amounts of money, but also having a really strong impact on the sustainability angle and the reducing of their footprint on the environment.
For example, in cases like mission control that involves like a two-way communication, if I understood correctly, how does the integration work? Because I can understand, for example, things like as you mentioned, aircraft data, for example, or EWAS pilot, EWAS dispatch, that it's about crunching data and issuing some recommendations based on the analysis that the systems can do. I mean, you have this as a software as a service. But what about the solutions that require some communication with third parties? So here, for example, mission control, it involves as well ground personnel that might be working for other suppliers, for other companies. How you ensure that this integrates with this very complex technological environment? Does everyone need to be a user of SITA's products, or there's an easy plug-and-play integration? Or how does it work? How you make sure that this communication flows, that there are no mismatches, no compatibility issues?
Yeah, and I mean that's the idea, is that it's an easy collaboration, it's an easy plug and play, and we worked with Microsoft quite heavily to do this, utilizing Microsoft Teams to enable this functionality, so that it's very easy. It's the scanning of a QR code can give someone access to that system, and allow them to see the information that they need to see to manage processes or communicate together. So rather than being just a communication one person to the other, which we may see now, like someone sending someone an email or a text message, it enables that mass communication of everyone who's involved. And as I say, we utilize strong functionality that we can get from Microsoft to really enable that, and that's where it's able to really build something which hasn't been done before, because this is new technology now, which is enabling this to be done. And if we come back to the integration part of that, like imagine you have someone who's working a long way away, and they've been able to access this information. And we've talked about some of our weather products, and we have a weather product on the ground for dispatchers and OCC to use, which mimics very much what the pilot is seeing. And using that tool, say if there'll be a warning of a weather hazard, as said, like a warning will come for this tool for the dispatch to say, oh, there's some strong turbulence ahead, or there's a thunderstorm here, so that they're able to manage that. And that's great, and the OCC person can then manage that, do a rerouting. But for us now, this person who's working a long way away, waiting for the aircraft to come into the outstation, is probably unaware that this aircraft is going to be going through some strong storms, or even rerouting to avoid some turbulence. But now with mission control, they're able to that data can seamlessly go from that dispatch tool, EWAS dispatch, seamlessly go from that into mission control and alert that user that this aircraft has flown through some strong turbulence, or this aircraft has had an issue with a storm, or has had to reroute, and their journey's been several miles longer. And then whether that's a maintenance thing, whether that's a fueling thing, whether that's even an issue with a passengers having to disembark early or need transport to their next gate to avoid a delay, they're then able to manage that straight away. Because they'll see that information, and previously they wouldn't have seen that information.
In practical terms, how do they see this information? When we talk about integration, would they be seeing it on their normal messaging system or messaging application they use, or do they need to install something on purpose to get this type of messages? What the interface looks like?
To be honest, that's the beauty of what we've done here with Microsoft, is that it utilizes Microsoft Teams. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what I said. That's the beauty of what we've done here with Microsoft. This utilizes Microsoft Teams. Whilst not every single company in the world will be using this, will be using Microsoft Teams. First of all, they are able to plug into it, even if they're not. But for many companies, they're already using Microsoft and the services that come around with it. So it really just integrates directly with that, and they would see a notification, whether it's on their cell phone, on their watch, on their iPad, whatever it may be, in the normal way that they would if they were working and sending a message between colleagues, and it would come through the mission control application in Microsoft Teams. So it really, there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing really that they would need to do, and using the functionality where they can just scan a QR code and then have access to that system can make it super easy for that to happen. And that's what we're intending to do. We don't want to burden people with more work. We want to make it easy, and that's why we've worked with Microsoft to do that, because it's so widely used. It can really make it a solution that is easily available for anyone to use.
Do you sell the different solutions package? Do airlines need to contract them out one by one? How does it look in commercial terms? And how many airlines are using it at the moment?
It's a bit of a mixture. Obviously, these most of our products can be used individually, but where the real benefit comes is by utilizing things together. So as we spoke about before with the Flight Folder and EWAS Pilot, by utilizing those tools together, you get a huge amount of added benefit from having all of the information in one place. So with your briefing that you're doing with your electronic Flight Folder, you have all the live weather information, contextualized and visual. You're able to have all that information together in one place. If you're using ObstaClimb at the same time, you're able to see that both within when you're doing your briefing and in the sort of tactical application that you're using for your weather. You're able to do all of those things. So the products definitely work better together, and really the sustainability like a part of that is much enhanced when you're using multiple things together. And the other example, say, is with the dispatch and mission control. Mission control works great on its own. Dispatch works great on its own. You're able to communicate with lots and lots of people using mission control. You're able to manage a lot of things. You're able to manage a lot of workflow. And this is all extremely important. And the same with dispatch. You're able to track your flights. You're able to keep up to date with the latest regulations in terms of the flight tracking. You're able to do that rerouting. But when you combine them together, that's where you get the real benefits, because you're then able to connect that information with the collaboration platform, and therefore make sure that everyone who needs to see it can see it. And that's where you can really get those efficiencies which have the impact on the footprint of the airline. So whilst they are individual products, they're connected in a way which makes them work really well together, and that's where you get that positive impact from increased sustainability. So we have to answer your second question, we have a fairly large selection of customers. There's around 150 airlines that are currently using one or more of the products within the digital day of operations portfolio. So we're looking at around 8,000 aircraft in total, so fairly substantial, and really this is how we're able to develop our products, because we're constantly getting that feedback from the customer on what they want. So we really develop things with the customer in mind, and this is why sustainability is now becoming one of the things which is really underpinning everything that we do. So all of the features that we're building really have this sustainability as one of the things, along with a few others, one of the things which really underpins how we're developing our applications, because this is is what we're getting from our customers, and this is what we're hearing. And I mean, you hear it in the news, you hear it everywhere, sustainability, but we're hearing this from our customers, and this is the demand they're giving to us. We want this. This is what we need, and so that's why we're building in these ways.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I can tell you, it's been this last year and a half, it's been really like, it was always there, but it's been like an explosion of interest in sustainability, not just the airlines, but the whole ecosystem, and also companies that are like big buyers of corporate travel, for example, as well. So yeah, that's definitely a very current topic. So for people that want to learn more about this, I guess the best way is to go to the website, right? SITA.aero. So yeah, I'm going to put a link. I don't know if there's any other resource that you would recommend.
Yeah, so I mean, each of these products will have a page which will give you some more information in terms of if you're really interested as an airline employee or someone like that. We have as we mentioned right at the start, we have offices in lots of different locations, and our teams of account managers and commercial managers are very happy to pick up the phone and speak to anyone about these solutions. But the first stop, I would say, is definitely the SITA for Aircraft website, where there's a lot of valuable information, hopefully some videos as well, which can provide some more detail into some of these products, and also what we're doing in terms of sustainability at SITA. It's not just our products, which we're looking at enhancing sustainability for airlines. It's something that we're doing ourselves as a company, and have been very successful at, and there's a lot of information on our website about that as well. So really, it's an ethos that we have now, and not just something that we're trying to do for our customers. It starts from home.
Well, Kemal, thank you so much for this comprehensive vision of what you guys are doing at SITA for aircraft. There are other episodes that are going to dig deeper into specific aspects of that, but I think that's been really great to have like the whole vision, because after all, it's a combination of all these multiple steps that helps airlines be more efficient already today without having to wait for new propulsion systems, hydrogen, electric. That might happen as well, but there are already powerful tools to squeeze some operational and also some environmental gains out of technology. So thank you so much for this vision. And yeah, I invite everyone to check the notes for the links for additional information. Thank you very much, Kemal.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Before you go, and if you like this podcast, a quick reminder that it would be absolutely great if you could please give it a rating on Apple, Spotify, or whichever platform you're using, or recommend it to a friend or whomever might be interested. Thank you very much, and see you soon.